What if Donald Trump was the Supreme Chancellor? In the main Star Wars timeline, Senator Sheev Palpatine from Naboo manages to be elected as Supreme Chancellor of the Republic and mold the galaxy into his image, eventually creating a menacing, authoritarian empire that strangles dissidents. Today, however, we'll be exploring a rather bold concept, as suggested by Chase Tosher 9544 on an old video. What if Donald Trump was the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic instead? Buckle up and get your spotchka ready because today's video is going to be a wild ride. Now, without further delay, let's get right into it. Our story begins at the end of The Phantom Menace. The Naboo trade blockade has been broken, and Padme's people are once again free. There's still a no-confidence vote in Chancellor Valorum that passes, and the same people who ran for Chancellor in The Phantom Menace put their names forward to challenge Palpatine. However, in this situation, there is another contender. A wealthy Coruscanti entrepreneur who is most well known for his HoloNet show, The Apprentice, which has absolutely nothing to do with Jedi Padawans. Donald Trump, a man who had dabbled in politics in the past but had only dipped his foot in the water once or twice, decides to throw his hat into the ring and become the new Supreme Chancellor. Many people are shocked, and initially, the senators dismiss this absurd reality HoloNet television personality. As the debates start during the Naboo trade blockade crisis, though, many of them actually begin to become captivated by his personality. He says that if he was in charge, this blockade never would have happened, and if it would, he would have made the Trade Federation pay for it all. He would drain the Senate swamp and make sure that nothing like this ever happened again. Palpatine, his key opponent and the electoral favorite, claps back at Trump, pointing to his political inexperience and some of his outrageous comments in the past that he'd made on HoloTwitter. Trump dismisses these claims as fake news, and he gives Palpatine the nickname Shrewd Sheev, which many senators have a chuckle at. His clips make galactic news, and everybody is talking about Donald Trump. He's a divisive figure, and everybody doubts his ability to actually win the Senate. However, just as the trade blockade crisis is winding down on Naboo, somehow Donald Trump manages to squeak by Palpatine in the Senate vote for Valorum's successor. Palpatine is absolutely horrified, as now his plan is significantly set backwards. Because of this, he leaves his master, Plagueis, alive, and they continue to scheme in order to get Palpatine into power. Surely, this new chancellor would sabotage himself, and they would simply need more patience. Shocked, the galaxy reacts in very different ways, and Donald Trump's election sends ripples across the Republic. How does this impact the rest of the Star Wars saga? Let's keep going to find out. During Trump's early days in office, he has somewhat of a honeymoon period with the population. While many dislike him, there is a strong group of senators and citizens who support his movement. One of Trump's first policies as Supreme Chancellor is to try and build a wall across the galaxy, hoping to impede extragalactic incursions. This wall would be a great undertaking, and it takes a significant amount of tax dollars, time, and energy from the Republic. However, many of his supporters believe that this is a worthwhile endeavor. While extragalactic incursions are rare, it is still a possibility, and they believe that it is better safe than sorry. Many worlds in the Republic, however, aren't a fan of this idea. Regional politicians, governors, and parliamentary bodies express their distaste for the Chancellor's plan, and he comes up with many witty nicknames to counter their concerns. Palpatine, knowing that this is an opportunity for him, visits many of these disenfranchised planets, and he tells them that he shares and understands their sentiments. Ego Damask II, also known as Darth Plagueis, uses his Mune banking clan influence to covertly fund politicians, advertisements, and campaigns against Trump's influence, secretly supporting Palpatine's interests. Trump, however, plays on this to his advantage. He riles up his supporters by claiming that this is all just fake news fabricated by the galactic elites, and that they wanted to increase taxes, infringe on their freedom, and destroy what made the Republic continue to stand. Trump uses his slogan, "Make the galaxy great again," to get his point across, and he also rails against the continued demilitarization of their government. In Trump's eyes, the galaxy needed a standing defense force, and he planned to make that a reality. As Trump continues to push his agenda for a strong republic, many of the Jedi begin to become concerned. After being keepers of the peace for millennia in the Star Wars galaxy, they become scared that this new Chancellor will wage war with a new army, especially given the fact that his supporters are so enthralled by everything that comes from Trump's mouth. While they've committed to maintaining the Republic and the democracy that it upholds, many of the high-ranking Jedi speak with Trump, indicating that they worry his agenda will push the galaxy into a more authoritarian, militarized state. Trump, with his abrasive personality, disagrees fervently with them, and he later makes a public statement about how he thinks that the Jedi are phenomenal people, super phenomenal guys, they really are, but that he completely disagrees with their perspective on the administration's policy. Trump tells his base that he thinks the Jedi are out of touch with the greater needs of the galaxy, and that he won't let them sway on his commitment to passing military legislation in the Senate. Ironically, Palpatine, to try and bolster his public image, rigorously opposes Trump's military agenda, and he works with senators such as Mon Mothma and Bail Organa to try and block Trump's proposals. It's hit or miss, and oftentimes votes between Palpatine's camp and Trump's new party, the Galactic Republicans, are decided by middle ground senators who must be swayed. Sometimes they choose to vote what's best for their people. Plagueis, however, often bribes these senators to Palpatine's side, and Trump has difficulty passing his militarization agenda. He rails against these senators, saying that they're all a part of the swamp and that they needed to be gotten rid of. But obviously he can't do anything because they're elected officials. All of this changes when Count Dooku begins to become more vocal about his frustrations with the Republic. As Count Dooku gains more of a platform on the galactic stage, he begins to heavily critique Trump's execution of the things that he had promised. Dooku says that Trump is a divisive candidate who had done nothing but tear the Republic apart, and that his claims that he would drain the Senate swamp were nothing but talk. He says that Trump's policies, while they may have lowered taxes for his friends in the core, often did not benefit the systems in the outer and mid-rims, which were bearing the brunt of his Galactic Wall project, which Dooku also rips into. Dooku claims that the Galactic Wall is an ineffective plan, and that in Trump's time as Chancellor, barely any of it had been completed. At first, the senators and political commentators who also agree with the Count, telling off Trump's dangerous agenda and warning that they may call for another vote of no confidence if things continue down this path. In response, Trump, still an entertainer at heart, villainizes his political opponents, once again calling out Shrewd Sheev and making up the nickname Dainty Dooku for their attempts to divide the Republic. He tells the galaxy that his plan is going great, just great really, and that the liberal fake news funded by the rich elites were trying to convince the galaxy otherwise. In this timeline, since Palpatine is still the senator for Naboo, once Padme's time as queen is finished, she is requested by the new queen to serve as a Naboo ambassador to other worlds for diplomatic affairs. She gladly obliges, and she is well liked by many people that she meets. While she opposes Trump's administration, she remains eloquent and well-spoken in her dealings, and many start to believe that she would make a better Supreme Chancellor than any of the senators bickering in the core worlds. Padme doesn't get involved, though, and instead continues to serve as an ambassador representing the interests of her homeworld. As tensions begin to escalate between the core and outer and mid-rims, finally, conflict begins to break out. One day, as Trump's Chancellor's starship begins to dock on one of the Coruscant landing platforms, and as Trump disembarks from the shuttle, a sniper blast comes from one of the nearby apartment complexes. It hits the Chancellor, but fortunately, due to growing tensions within the galaxy, Trump had been issued body-plated dural steel armor to wear underneath his robes. He's knocked off his feet, and there would definitely be a bruise, but the Chancellor would not be permanently injured. Immediately, Trump's guards and security detail begin to lock down the perimeter, and they rush the Chancellor to safety. After this, similar to how it goes down in Attack of the Clones, the Jedi are called to guard and investigate who had issued this attack. Once again, the Council finds it prudent to assign Obi-Wan and Anakin to guard Trump in his private residence, and once again, they end up chasing down Zam Wesell through the streets of Coruscant after they find the worms in Donald's room. Palpatine and Plagueis are still working in the shadows, manipulating what's going on, and they're secretly in league with Dooku in an effort to rein in Donald Trump while securing power for themselves. Anakin and Obi-Wan once again are sent on their respective journeys, and Obi-Wan discovers the clone army on Kamino. Anakin, in this timeline, is placed on guard duty for Trump, not Padme. He stays on Coruscant, escorting the Chancellor wherever he needs to go, and watching the speeches that he gives to the Senate. During these times, Palpatine sees an opportunity. When Anakin is in his off time, Palpatine speaks with the young Jedi, telling him that he believes Trump's policies will tear the Republic apart, and he attempts to woo Anakin to his side. It's not much use, though. Anakin respects Palpatine, but he's enchanted by the Chancellor, telling Palpatine that he's just falling for the fake news agenda of the galactic elites. He says that Trump's building jobs across the outer and mid-rims, and that those who opposed him simply needed to educate themselves on the real facts. Under Trump, the economy was booming, according to Anakin, and he believes that Trump is one of the greatest Supreme Chancellors in recent history, possibly ever. Palpatine is frustrated that he can't seem to get through to Anakin, but he maintains patience. When the Republic finds out about the clone army that had been created in the shadows, they're all for it. Trump says that with the rising Separatist threat, they would need to maintain order, and that those clones were exactly what they needed. In fact, when Obi-Wan is captured on Geonosis, and when the Jedi fail to rescue him due to a massive amount of droids that pour into the arena, Trump directly orders the siege of Geonosis, and he's granted emergency powers by a small sliver of the minority within the Senate to deal with this new crisis. Once again, he calls out, "Don't you, Dooku," and "Please mute Gunray" for their treasonous actions, saying that he never wanted to hear Gunray talk again, because he has a super annoying voice. Anakin doesn't go to Geonosis with the rest of the Jedi, as he's still on guard duty for Trump. He watches from afar, continuing to get to know the Chancellor better, and still being enamored by his presence. As the Clone Wars continue to rage across the galaxy, Trump uses his emergency powers to pass quick-to-act legislation that strengthens the Republic military. Respecting those who are fighting for the freedom of his citizens, he also officially grants the clones citizenship under his administration, allowing them to vote, receive salaries, and have pensions upon retirement. He signs contracts with the Kaminoans extending far into the future, especially since he anticipates that this war will be over much sooner than it did under Palpatine in the original timeline. Palpatine maintains his allegiance to the Republic, but he still stands in staunch opposition to Trump. In fact, on 2 different occasions, he calls for Trump to be removed from power due to abuse of his power under the Republic Constitution and an imbalance between the executive and legislative branches. These are voted down, though, and Trump remains Chancellor throughout the war. Dooku continues to rail against Trump's vision for the Republic, claiming that it infringed on the regional rights of the Confederacy systems. As for the outcome of the war, it ends up highly favoring the Republic, because Trump orders his special forces to take out important targets rather than screwing around in the Outer Rim sieges, like they do under Palpatine in the main timeline. He clearly wants to end the war, despite what certain media outlets are trying to say about him, and he rails against those outlets, claiming that they're anti-Republic. Meanwhile, Anakin, who is commanding forces as a new Jedi Knight and also takes on his Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, keeps in contact with Trump, and he distances himself from Sheev, which angers the senator. He needs to find a good way to win back Anakin Skywalker. Because the Confederacy sees that they're losing the war, their government decides to do something bold. Just like in canon, they hatch a plan to siege the galactic capital and take Chancellor Trump hostage. Dooku wants to hold him ransom to achieve the goals of separatism, and this time, Palpatine would not be one of the people captured in the kerfuffle. This is a much earlier than we see in Revenge of the Sith, so Ahsoka is still in the Jedi Order when this takes place. The Republic doesn't see this coming, and when Grievous arrives with his fleet, everyone is taken aback. The Separatists have the element of surprise, and the Republic military leadership quickly scrambles to defend their planet. Tarkin and Yularen work together to formulate a strategy, and the Jedi are quick to defend their homeworld alongside Republic troops. As soon as the attack begins, Trump hops on his holo-Twitter and releases a tweet about how he knows that they're going to win the battle, because his clones are great guys, and the droids are just unthinking bimbos that don't want to make the galaxy great again. The battle for the fate of Trump's galaxy had begun. As the siege of Coruscant goes on, the Venators in the sky manage to defend the airspace above their world quite well, considering the fact that they had such short notice about the attack. Yularen proves his poise and confidence, and he commands a solid defense of the skies. Sadly, though, many of Yularen's junior officers that were commanding other ships in the defense fleet can't help but take the pressure of command. They're destroyed by some Separatist commanders, and Admiral Trench is able to outsmart many of them. The Separatists punch a hole through Yularen's fleet, and they manage to begin landing troops on the surface of the galactic metropolis. Grievous is on the front lines alongside his droids, mowing down clone defenders, and he is ready for blood. Even though many of the Jedi generals on the ground are competent, they still fall for Grievous's notorious 4 blades, and he adds their lightsabers to his collection. Anakin, who is the Jedi that has been identified with the closest connection to Trump, is assigned by Republic High Command to protect the Chancellor in his office, alongside the 501st and 3 Republic Special Forces squads, Delta, Omega, and the Bad Batch. There would be no risks with this, and they wanted to see the Chancellor protected at all costs. Anakin is ready, standing alongside Rex, Ahsoka, and his Special Forces colleagues, prepared for Separatist forces to invade the Senate building. Anakin's master, Obi-Wan, is out on the front lines with the 212th and Cody, alongside the likes of Yoda, Mace Windu, and other council members attempting to defend the droid onslaught. Anakin and his contingent wait, keeping quiet, assuring Trump that he would be safe. Trump, wanting to show his support for the troops, abrasively asks Anakin if he would be allowed to go to the front lines and encourage the clones. Anakin, though, denies this request, believing it to be a ridiculous suggestion, given the circumstances. Trump continues to keep his followers updated on HoloTwitter, talking about how events were playing out in the galactic capital. After much waiting, Tech states that he can detect some droid activity within the Senate building. He says that they're moving quickly and that a lot of clankers are coming, suggesting a large attack from droid commandos. Soon, they begin pouring into the area surrounding the office, and the clones start to fend them off. Anakin and Ahsoka peel back, deflecting stray bolts away from the Chancellor. Trump jumps under his desk and begins to tweet, telling his followers that the treasonous Separatists had finally gotten to him, but that his Jedi protectors were handling the situation well. He says that Anakin and his Padawan were just great guys, really great guys, and he uploads a video of the entire ordeal to HoloTwitter as well, with some running commentary. Almost instantly, it sets records as the most liked and retweeted post in HoloTwitter history, with both Republicans and Separatists talking about their thoughts online. While all of this is going on, Palpatine, who had been surprisingly quiet during this entire ordeal, decides that there is one more opportunity to try and convince the Jedi that Trump is a poor leader who deserves to be ousted. And he knows this is risky, but he does it anyway, hoping that it would be successful. He sends a transmission to many of his Jedi friends, saying that they should immediately execute Order 65 to end this war and negotiate with the Separatists. He tells them that he believes that Trump is the entire reason this war started. Order 65 is the one where, if the Senate or Republic High Command believes that the Chancellor is unfit for office, then the clones could apprehend and remove them from their position. Many Jedi are shocked by this, and they disregard Palpatine's attempts to bring down Trump. Many of them even think it's a fake message. However, some Jedi see his point. They believe that Trump is the entire reason for this war, and they side with Palpatine. These Jedi order their clones away from the battle, demanding that they execute Order 65 and apprehend the Chancellor. This also happens to be the moment in which General Grievous manages to push his battalion of droids to the Senate building, looking forward to capturing Trump himself. When these two factions meet at the door, Grievous ordered that they be slaughtered. This merely creates more confusion, and Palpatine's plan is ultimately going to fail. The 501st manage to fend off the attacking commando droids, and they secure the Senate building. Anakin maintains his position, and Trump stays protected from harm. Rex asks permissions to go help his boys outside, who are battling the droids, and Anakin agrees. He stays in Trump's office with the Special Forces clones, and he asks Ahsoka to go help Rex in the battle below. Ahsoka nods, and she goes to help him out. The 501st is a factor that the other clones need, and they're able to force General Grievous's battalion into retreat. Then, however, things start to get messy. The Jedi generals continue to push for their troops to execute Order 65, and Rex is confused. Anakin had never received this order because Palpatine knew he wouldn't act on it, and neither had he. Ahsoka also gives a look of bewilderment, confused. Because Rex is a well-respected clone, he's able to talk down many of the clone commanders to the dismay of their Jedi generals, telling them that removing a legitimate chancellor from office would indeed be treasonous, especially since neither the Senate nor Republic High Command had ratified this. When the clones hear that they would be committing treason, they lay down their weapons and refuse to execute the demands of these radical Jedi. The 501st round up these Jedi, and they demand to know from whom they'd been told to execute Order 65. The Masters say Palpatine, and the 501st arrest them to await trial for treason against the Republic. As Grievous retreats, so do the other Separatist forces. Dooku, Trench, and Grievous all manage to jump away from Coruscant, even though they're empty-handed. Following this gruesome and embarrassing defeat, Dooku convinces the Confederacy Parliament that it was time to surrender. Hopefully, the Republic would have some grace on them, and he would be allowed more governmental autonomy. When the Confederacy admits defeat, Trump immediately tweets about it, calling this a massive victory for the Republic. Surprisingly, though, he's actually gracious. Despite being obstinate, Trump recognizes that another civil war would truly tear his republic apart, and it would absolutely ruin his reputation. He'd managed to fend off many attacks from his opponents, but more division would likely lead to him finally actually losing. He gives the separatist states more autonomy, and he grants them the authority to opt out of his military clone program, which, again, he plans on continuing if they maintained suitable regional defense forces of their own. Because the Clone Wars had proven the prowess of droids, they agree to this, and they also agree to continue building Trump's galactic wall, now acknowledging that it was giving more jobs to their populations, and it might have even bolstered their economy slightly due to the export of their resources to the wall's production. Still, though, many think it's a silly idea, and they don't want any part in it. Trump claims on Twitter that he had made the Republic great again, and that him and his Galactic Republicans were going to keep it great. Trump revokes his emergency powers, wanting to keep them, but knowing that the Senate would definitely not approve. Palpatine and the Jedi who tried to join his coup are charged with treason. Because the records of the transmission exist, all of them are sentenced to significant chunks of time in Republic prison. Ironically, Palpatine claims that this is all fake news, fabricated, deep fakes, and that all of this was just Trump's supporters trying to get him out of office. Obviously, the courts don't buy it. However, many in the public do, and they start to support Palpatine, and they gravitate towards this politician. Plagueis is still in the shadows too, and before Palpatine leaves, he promises Palpatine that the Great Plan will continue, and that he will work to break Palpatine out of jail. While in prison, Palpatine continues to twist the minds of the Jedi that he had recruited against the galactic government, riling up their negative emotions against Trump and weaponizing them, hoping to soon convert them to the dark side of the Force. In the end, with the removal of Palpatine from government, Padme ends up becoming the next senator for Naboo. She's well-liked, and she poses a charismatic alternative to Trump. Despite the Galactic Republicans continuing to support their leader, when Trump's term limit expires, they're unable to extend it further, and Padme is elected to lead the Republic following Trump's insane term. She extends her hand out to all the Jedi, encouraging cooperation and peace in the galaxy. Trump continues to use hollow Twitter frequently, still railing against the galactic elites, but for the most part, he remains fairly quiet. After the Clone Wars, he's ready for a nice retirement. He plays a lot of golf in the Outer Rim. He continues to advocate for his galactic wall, but Padme is opposed, and orders that the construction be halted. She also reduces funding for Trump's militarization efforts, acknowledging that it was something that needed to be maintained following the war. However, she also didn't want to see the military continue to expand. Padme knows that down the line, the Yuuzhan Vong would approach the galaxy, and that perhaps Trump's ideas would have been good protection against this race. On the other hand, though, the Galactic Wall and increased military funding probably wouldn't have been able to defend against the Yuuzhan Vong and their sophisticated organic technology, along with their thirst for conquest. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex become galactic heroes, and because of Anakin's actions in the Battle of Coruscant, he's granted a seat on the Jedi Council. Trump also gives these 3 medals, along with all of the other Jedi who had helped protect the capital, and some of the clones as well. Ahsoka becomes a knight, and things wrap up nicely for everyone. Rex retires well from the military, and he continues to work with the government as a defense policy advisor to the likes of Tarkin and Yularen. Anakin, while still identifying with the Galactic Republican cause, likes Padme, and he sees himself better understanding the other side of the debate. While Palpatine had secretly been scheming in the shadows, it seems that Padme legitimately wanted what was best for the galaxy. While Trump's tenure in office is chaotic, things settle down following his departure from office. The news still focuses heavily on him, though, as he is a fun figure for them to follow that gets views. Once again, the galaxy is at peace, and security is maintained within the Republic. Whether Trump truly did make the Republic great again is up for debate. However, he certainly goes down in history as one of the most unconventional Supreme Chancellors to ever take office. Hey there everyone! I really hope that you liked today's What If video. If you did enjoy, I recommend checking out our last video, What If Anakin Was Never Trained as a Jedi? If you have thoughts about this story, please comment them below. We'd love to hear your feedback. Would you like to see a part 2? What do you think would happen next if you'd like to see the story continue? Have an awesome rest of your day, fellow Star Wars fans, and as always, I hope that you've gotten your delicious daily dose of Bantha Stew.